I'll talk a little bit about subject matter that I haven't touched in a while. Okay, and it comes at the heels of a little article I read about this gentleman, which I guess most of you, if not all of you, know. Okay, his name is Elon Musk, and he says we're quickly heading into a world where work will be unnecessary and money useless. My prediction is that work will be optional in what? In 10 to 20 years. It'll be like playing sports or a video game or something like that. You can go to the store and just buy some vegetables, or you can grow your own vegetables, right? And that will be what work will be like, optional. Continued improvements in AI, that's where he's getting this idea, and robotics, right, suggests that money will stop being relevant at some point in the future. Currency becomes irrelevant. There's basically only one way to make everyone wealthy, and that is AI and robotics. AI and humanoid robots will actually eliminate poverty. That's his prediction, and that kind of got me started. For those of you who know what this site says about that, have been around for a while. Well, we say that what we have today, the humans we have today, we are the last generation of humans on Earth. That's what we say. There is absolutely no possibility of us making it to the 22nd century. I even doubt, perhaps, that we might not even make it to the year 2050. I think the collapse will happen before then. So what am I talking about? Have I gone to the future and come back and seen what happened? Am I Nostradamus, a seer, a prophet? No, it's got nothing to do with the future. It has to do solely with the past. Okay, extinction has to do with the past. And what am I talking about? I'm saying that what we're looking at is not a prediction. We're looking at an explanation. We're looking at the causes. What causes a mass extinction? What is the mechanism? And no one has discovered it in the last 200 years, 200 plus years, since, George Cuvier, essentially the father of paleontology, ended up, creating this thing called paleontology. And nobody has figured it out, how species become extinct. You're talking about extraterrestrial impacts, which they already, had already brainstormed in those days, so that's nothing new. They're talking about climate change. They're talking about, the cycles, the oxygen, nitrogen, carbon cycles, etc. Plumes coming out of the ground, methane, egg predation, supernovas. They've got all these theories out there, none of which have anything to do with extinction. Extinction happens in one way and one way only, and happens always in the same way. Mass extinction. I'm talking about a mass extinction, right? Just to contrast it with background extinction. Mass extinction happens always in the same way, and it's always an economic collapse. That's what it is. Okay, it's always an economic collapse. What do I mean by that? Well, all animals do economics, all of them, in the wild. What are they? What is economics? It's management of resources. What resource do they manage? Food, primarily. 99% of it is food. That's what they manage. And when food goes away, guess what? The animals die. The animals who are dependent on those sources of food have nothing to eat, and they massively die. And it always happens to the old species that were around, and new ones continue. In other words, but you got to explain any theory of extinction. The only thing that they really have to explain, whoever is the theorist, is selectivity. How does Mother Nature select one over the other? And not only selectivity, but it has to explain chronological selectivity. How does Mother Nature only select the old species and leave the new ones alive? Not only in plants, but also in animals. That's the whole thing. And that's what you see throughout history. Okay? And here's Some charts that give you an idea. Here's the mechanism I propose. It's the ecological pyramid overturn, okay? And what it is you have a regular pyramid on your left. That's a healthy one. What happens towards the end is overturns. Okay, that's what it is. A mass extinction, disappearance of a food chain, specifically an old food chain. And what replaces it is the radiation of new species of plants and animals, little ones. They're at their feet. And once the big guys are out of the way, they take over the land and they begin the process all over again. Okay, that's essentially what we propose for a mass extinction, and that's what's going to cause the extinction of man. Here you see a picture of that just by glancing at it, you can get an idea of what happened throughout history, how it happened, why it happened, the causes. That's what we're interested in here. And here you see it. Just a very quick picture. You see what's happened in the Devonian and the Carboniferous, and you had these non-vascular, early vascular plants. They were essentially they used spores. Okay, that's how primitive they were, and they were replaced by plants of the Permian and Triassic, primarily the seed ferns. In the Permian, you had the glossopteridales, and in the Triassic, you had the dicroidiums. And when those plants disappeared, when they disappeared, the glossopteridales disappeared in the Permian, guess what? The ancient mammal-like reptiles disappeared. When the dicroidiums disappeared in Triassic, guess what? The archosaurs disappeared. And what continued were these tiny animals that were waiting for these big guys to get out, and they were following a different type of plant. They were following the conifers. They were known as the dinosaurs. We had different kinds of dinosaurs in the Jurassic and the Cretaceous, but essentially they were all conifer eaters. Okay? They ate gymnosperms. And what happened after the gymnosperms ran out? They were crowded out essentially by the angiosperms, but not only crowded out, they were also imploding. They were dying because of old age. They had been around for too long. Their genetic diversity decreased significantly, and so they were on their way out. And the dinosaurs were sitting on shrinking islands. That's essentially what happened. The jungles and the forests, they were becoming smaller and smaller of conifers, right? Were becoming smaller and smaller. And what was taking over the land were the angiosperms and the tiny little mammals that were following that new source of food. Okay, and that's where we are at today. And now what we have today is the same situation. The plants are going to disappear. The one that we all depend on. We have cows, we have chickens, we have pigs. There's millions of these animals that we deliberately raise because we have them in our market. It's a part of our business model. We sell them for eating. And all these other wild animals, there's very few of those. You have millions of cows, you have millions. I think the most numerous one are the chickens, right? And these animals, we feed them. We feed them for the market because we have some use for them. We eat them, etc. All the other animals, the wolves, the poor little wolf, the bears, there's very few of those. Okay, nobody cares about them. And tigers, lions. If they all died tomorrow, nobody would care. Nobody would notice. Okay, it's like the mammoth. When the mammoth died, nobody cared. Okay, it was gone. And so, we feed these animals, we keep them alive, and they all eat the same, more or less the same type of food we eat, which are angiosperms. And all we have to do is make sure that angiosperms are gone, and we're all gone. All the mammals are gone. That's how easy it is. And the question is, is that possible? Is it possible the angiosperms to die, to disappear? And the answer is yes. And it's because we grow the angiosperms that we eat, and also that these animals that we like also eat. And what happens when the economy falls apart? Because we grow them for money. And when the money disappears, when the economy falls apart, the nobody produces these angiosperms or distributes them, and we all die. That's how simple it is. Okay, cities, they all depend on the country. Why do we produce food? For money. No money, no food. Just that simple. Okay, and so here you see the economic modes through the ages, and this gives you a pretty good picture of what's going to happen to us. This is our economics. Okay, and for 200, 300,000 years, maybe we were hunter-gatherers. About 10,000, maybe 15,000. You can take that as far as you want. Years ago, we went into farming. About 300 years ago, we went into manufacturing. The Industrial Revolution started in some countries. And about 30 years ago, we went into services. In other words, services were the main contributor to the economy, both in terms of labor as well as, GDP. And about 10 years ago, we went into special type of services, which are internet services. And what are internet services? Well, it's just entertainment and ads. And that's where we're at today. We're expanding that segment. And within that, we have the AIs, which are kicking people out of those jobs, and will continue to do so until, we reach full unemployment. Okay? And what does that mean? Well, it means that, our economy collapses. So one of the problems I've got with what Musk said is that he says the AIs are going to do everything. We're just going to sit around and we're going to loaf around. What problems do I have with that? Well, the first one is it's great to see it as an ideal society and say, okay, let's assume we go to another planet and find it already there. All the robots doing, the Jetsons kind of work. They do all this work, and we sit around and do nothing. Okay, we can more or less try to imagine that world. What is unimaginable, what Musk has not imagined, is that how do we get there? How do we get to 10% unemployment? How do we get to 20% unemployment? How do we get to 30% unemployment without the whole thing collapsing and going to hell? That's the issue. And so, we can always imagine the 100% society, 100% unemployment. We cannot imagine the 30% unemployment society. That's where the problem is. And that's one issue. The other issue is that we're not having children. We have no kids today. We stopped having children. The population of the world is still growing because, there's still people having children out there, but that's dying. Here's the growth rate that we have today. Gives you a picture of what's happening to the population as far as producing consumers especially, but producing children. And you can see that by the year maybe 2050, they think we're probably going to reach the zero population growth. In other words, the population of the Earth will stop growing. Humans, right, will stop growing. And I think it's going to happen a lot earlier. That's my green line there. That's my projection there. The projection right now is the other one, the red one. Okay, but you can see that it's been dropping. It's steadily dropping. There's nothing that you can do to turn this around. Okay, there's absolutely no way you can turn a population pyramid upside down ever again. Okay, here you have population through the ages. Okay, you can see what's happened. We were very few through most of our history. And just in the last 100, 200 years, you can see what's happened. It's just ballooned. Okay, we've gone all the way up. We've had lots of children. Okay, and we're still an empty planet, by the way. Okay, the problem is that we're all in the cities. That's the problem. So we're not going to be founding new cities. There's going to be no new cities out there. The Russians have all this land, and their population is imploding. Japanese don't have land, but their population is also imploding. You say, well, how can that be? Well, it is because everybody's in the city. And nobody's going to go out into the middle of Siberia and create a new city there, a new town, and, from there start growing again. The age of colonization is over. It's never going to happen again. And so all countries, even the United States, is in negative population growth. The only reason the United States is growing is because of immigration, nothing but. And the same for Europe. Europe, just about every country, in fact, I think every single country is in negative population growth. And so, yeah, we have a problem because we're not having kids. And on top of that, because of inbreeding that we've had for the last 300,000 years, we've married amongst ourselves. Because of inbreeding, we're having not only a loss of genetic diversity, but we're having all kinds of mental problems and physical problems today, which are genetically related. Okay, so here we have, here's the global population, the pyramid essentially, and you can see what's happening. More and more people are becoming older, and we're having fewer kids, and so the population is going to overturn. Okay, that's going to the population pyramid is going to overturn. Okay, and so yeah, we have a problem with that. If the population pyramid overturns, how do you overturn it again? And women and men, essentially both of them, don't want to have kids anymore. And why is that? Partly because of economics, but they're in the city. We're out in the city. We're urbanites now. We're no longer in the country. In the country, our great-grandmothers had 10 children. Half of them died. Didn't matter because, if you had 10 children, 5 of them survived to adulthood, and you're okay. You still keep expanding. That's not happening. Right now, we're not having the children to begin with, and whoever we have has all kinds of problems, mental or physical. Most of them, or a lot of them do. A big percentage of them do. And so, yeah, the question is, where does this lead? And then you have some people out there who propose that, in fact, Musk is one of them. He proposes that we can go to Mars. He's a proponent of going to Mars. And here it is. See if I put him up here. He says the following. He says, becoming a multi-planet species. We're going to conquer the planets and maybe from there on move to another star. Right? And this is how I got involved in the topic of extinction because, and he said it was going to happen by 2024. He said that 8 years ago. But the prediction is not important. I mean, he could be off by a few years. That's no biggie. The problem is whether it has any chance at all whatsoever. And the issue is that I used to believe in the same thing. I used to believe, just without thinking too deeply in it, and that, yeah, we're going to conquer the planets, then we move to another star system, then we'll conquer the galaxy and so on. I thought that was the natural progression of humans. I said, yeah, we're going to make it all. It's going to be nice. I won't see it, but yeah, it's going to happen. And today I say, no way, it's impossible. It'll never happen. There's absolutely no possible way. And here you have one fellow. His name was Carl Sagan. I was a fan of him. I used to be a fan of him. I'm sorry I was. I think he was an irrational individual. He was a great teacher. I liked the way he taught and so on. That's what conquered my heart. But what he taught was garbage. All of what Carl Sagan ever said was trash, was nonsense. And that's why I stopped following him. And this is what he had to say about Mars. Let me put him up there and listen to him. Okay, hear it from the horse's mouth. Here it goes.
We would need to evolve by artificial selection and genetic engineering dark plants able to survive the severe Martian environment. We might even imagine a kind of Martian Johnny Appleseed, robot or human, roaming the frozen polar wastes in an endeavor which benefits only the generations to come. It might take hundreds or thousands of years. If the planet ever is terraformed, it'll be done by human beings whose permanent residence and planetary affiliation is Mars. The Martians will be us.
I had to put that in there. I couldn't resist it. Yeah, I think he was crazy, and unfortunately, I believed like he did at one time, and I'm very embarrassed about that, but I do confess. No, we're not going to go to Mars to colonize or to conquer it or whatever. First of all, it takes many billions of dollars to get people out there, right? And that might still happen. Maybe they might send an expedition out there and you have a few astronauts walking the surface of Mars, taking pictures, collecting rocks or whatever they do, maybe trying to figure out if there's any life or there was life or whatever, that might happen. That's the best I can imagine happening. Whether it will happen or not, I don't know. An advantage is now governments are not as much in control of that project as much as individuals, rich people who fund these things. So that might happen because of that, because now you have private funding. Okay, so what do we get in return? I mean, if you're going to put money into a venture, what are you getting out of it? That's a question. And you can get technology. That's one possibility, right? Which at least would make the military very pleased. Suddenly you have this new technology that you might use against the enemy and so on. That's something you might look forward to. And you can stop there. That's about it. Well, also, the fact that you created a craft, a ship that can make it all the way to Mars and back. Great. That's it. But, I mean, what are you getting out of it? It's not like you're putting money into something that's going to produce something. This doesn't produce anything other than that. Just technology and more technology. That's about it, So what did Sagan say? Well, he said something that Musk, just pulled from him. And it's this, that we're going to be a multi-planet species. Listen, Han, this is the ending. A few years later, right?
A remarkably diverse group of American leaders has endorsed the Mars goal. In the long run, the significance of such a mission is nothing less than the conversion of humanity into a multi-planet species.
And those are the exact words that Musk used. We're going to be a multi-planetary species. No, we're going to be a one-planet species. Believe me, it's third rock from the sun. Okay, we're never going to leave that. And what is funny, he was also planning. Carl Sagan, he was planning on sending things out there to contact other civilizations. Said, hey, if we send a rocket out that goes out of the solar system, some civilization out there might see it, and they say, hey, there are other humans or other intelligent beings somewhere in the galaxy or in the probably in the galaxy, because it would have to travel very, very far for some other galactic civilization to see us. It would have to be within our galaxy. And so they set this thing on one of the Voyagers, on two of the Voyagers, in fact, and it's a disk that has information about, our world, a little bit of information. Whether they would be able to read it would be interesting. I doubt they would. Okay, they had another one going to what was it? The Pioneers. That one before the Voyagers. Okay, and that's what they sent out there. Okay, a metal plaque again, because the pros were going to look at something in the solar system first, and then they were going to continue onwards. And they said, okay, if it's going to continue, why don't we just put something in there so that if someone ever finds it, they say, okay, there's a civilization out there. Maybe they could find us. They try to put a picture of where we would be at. Okay. And is that a waste of money, a waste of time? Because remember, to make these plaques and these discs, you have groups of people, and you have to pay them good money, to do that. And they devise a little disc, and they put it on the ship, and the ship goes outwards, right? Message in a bottle. You're stuck on an island. You throw the bottle with a message. Please find me. Help me. No, it's never going to happen. We're never going to be in contact with another civilization. It'll never happen. It's impossible to happen. So we shouldn't even try. And if we can reason that it's already irrational to even try, why spend the money in these groups that create these things, put them on a ship and send the ship outwards to contact another civilization? And I think some of the people in the government, in the U.S. government, are thinking in those terms, and they say, hey, how much money are we spending on NASA and on some of these projects? What are we getting out of it? Are they going to produce anything? And that's why, I think that they're going to be cutting some of the funding from some of these projects. And I think they're doing the right thing. I think they should cut them all completely. We're not going to go out there, and so, it's just a waste of money. Taxpayers' money, that you're paying for that. And why aren't we going to reach another civilization? Why aren't we going to make contact? You have SETI, search for extraterrestrial intelligence. And I think they shouldn't go extraterrestrial intelligence. We should focus our microscope at SETI and find out if there's any intelligence there at SETI. Okay, and I don't think there's much intelligence in there. Why aren't we going to see another civilization? Why aren't we going to be in contact with one? We're never going to be contacted by one. We're never going to see one. Nobody's ever going to know we even existed once extinction takes effect. And we can start with Mars. Let's find out why Mars is a problem already. Why we're not even going to conquer Mars. We're not going to colonize Mars. We're not going to have people on Mars, create a civilization on Mars. Never going to happen. And here are the brute facts, okay? And here you have the Earth on the left. I hope you recognize that. And Mars on the right. Okay, you can see the diameters are a little bit different. The Earth is almost twice as big as Mars as far as the diameter is concerned. Volume is even bigger. You've got an order there different. One is 10 to the 12th. The other one is 10 to the 11th. Kilometers cubed, okay? Look at the mass, difference in mass, because again, you have one order there, 10 to the 24th versus 20 to the 23rd, and it reflects on the gravity. You can see right underneath it. And because of, the gravity is very different, that's something you got to take into consideration. The day is not important. They both have more or less the same day, so that's great. Years a little different because they're farther out, so it takes twice as long for Mars to go around the sun, okay? No biggie there either, I think. Big problem not only is gravity, but atmosphere. You can see the atmospheres of these two planets are significantly different. And that's why Carl Sagan was talking about it might take hundreds of thousands of years. Why? Because they need to terraform Mars. In other words, they have to change the surface, the atmosphere of Mars, okay, to make it, suitable for us. O2 specifically, probably nitrogen as well, but O2 specifically, right? And that means you have to convert the CO2 into O2. That's a pretty big engineering project when you're talking about a whole planet, and the entire atmosphere. That's one issue. But assuming even if we grant that, let's say tomorrow morning we have the same atmosphere on planet Mars as we do here on Earth. The first problem is the pressure. We got a different pressure over there. Why? Because it's a smaller planet. We have a different gravity. So, all that air, it's going to go away. You're just going to have a thinner shell of air around the planet for us to breathe. So that's going to be a problem. I'm not sure you can cure that. But then again, it's, spending the money to get there. And the question is, are we going there to explore? Are we going over there to colonize? Are we going there to get rid of all the prisoners in our jails and say, hey, send them all out there? I mean, why would we do that when these people now are over there, right? Why would they even pay attention to us? Here we sent a group of people out there. Let's assume they multiply, which is already hard to believe in this day and age, right? So they start having kids after our genetic diversity has been wiped out completely almost. And then you have a small group of people from there that you're going to populate all of Mars, right? And again, their genetic diversity is going to expire in 2 or 3 generations. But assuming we get through all that, why would we do it? Why would we send people out there to Mars? They're far away. They lost contact with us. Are they going to send potatoes and sell them to us? Or are we going to have commerce with them? Is that what we're going to be doing? so many millions of miles away. I mean, I think it's cheaper to buy potatoes here, and I'm just giving just an example here, but things that you can produce here, there's no need to go to Mars to get it. And so there's no economic reason to put a colony there that would later on sever ties with the Earth. And on top of that, 2-3 generations later, their genetic diversity is gone and they're going to be producing kids with 6 fingers. So, no, it's never going to happen. And, here you are on Earth, right? And the question is whether you want to go from heaven to hell. I mean, is that a good deal? We're in heaven here in the blue planet, and we want to go to this red hellish planet. Yeah, sure. I'm not sure we want to do that. And so again, I don't think we're going to be in contact with any civilization in great measure not so much because there aren't any. Of course, there's got to be in the universe. I'm sure there's got to be other intelligent beings. We'll call them humans, okay? Because I think that human is the highest level of intelligence that Father Universe, Mother Nature can make, can build, can construct. Okay, so we are the highest intelligence there can be in the universe. Anything that's explained to us, I mean, if God Almighty Himself came here tomorrow and explained something to us, we have the intelligence to understand what He's saying. Okay, so we have the highest intelligence possible that all animals should envy from us. But so are there other intelligent beings like us? Very likely. But the problem here is that we can see, first of all, that life is very scarce in our solar system. It's all silicon. It's not carbon-based, right? Are there silicon beings? Well, I'll let you figure that out. I say there's no such monster as a silicon being, okay? But if there is a civilization out there, carbon-based, intelligent like us, they're very, very far away. And it's not so much the distance. The issue is time. We've only had, 200 years of, and I'm being generous here, right? 200 years of electricity where we have a telegraph, we can send signals out there into outer space and receive them and so on. Let's assume we've had this technology completely like we have today for 200 years, right? 200 years is nothing. In the timing of the universe, it's less than a drop of water in the ocean. That's what it is. And so we have staggering. If there are other civilizations, they either already went, they became extinct, or they haven't reached that level where it's 200 years. That's the whole window, right, before we become extinct. And so to find another civilization in our same level that can send signals to us, oh man, I like to see the statistics on that. That's got to be negligible. And I'd say it's impossible. It's simply not in the cards. We're never going to hear from anybody out there because of time. We're just staggered in time so much. Whoever evolves to the point that humans have evolved, not only are they far away, but they're distant in time. It doesn't happen at the same time as it happens to us. Maybe there are dinosaurs in another planet right now, and you say, well, we got to wait a few million years until we can communicate with them. Yeah, just sit and wait, right? No, it's not going to happen. And so, bottom line, no, we're due for extinction. And I'm just glossing over a lot of the fine detail here, okay? But I think we're due for extinction, and because of that, we're not going to be conquering any planets. We're not going to be hearing from other civilizations. And we should be getting ready for what's coming. And it's the end of man. That's what it is. Our economy is about to collapse. And there's nothing we can do about it. In fact, we have a lot of these bubbles out there right now. And they're all about to pop. We have the housing bubble. We have the stock bubble. There's several bubbles out there, investment, all that. And a lot of that is, I think, about to collapse. We have nothing new to expand into. There's no new line item in the economy where we can expand and put people to work again and so on. And so, again, when Musk says we're going to end up, without needing money, having the robots doing everything. Yeah, it's a great dream, and the question is, how do you get there? That's one issue. The other one is, I don't think even if we got there, we wouldn't live for very long again, because, our population is going to be declining, and we have lost our genetic diversity, meaning that all the kids that will be born from such a society will be ever with bigger and bigger genetic problems. And that's how Mother Nature ensures that even the most intelligent species that she created goes extinct as well.